Did you miss us? Welcome to episode 30 of Sketch Watch Play. I am John Fleury.
I am Ben Reynolds.
And we are a geek pop culture podcast talking TV, movies, cartoons, and video games. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, and in most general podcast directories and apps. Please consider subscribing to us on your platform of choice to stay up to date. Follow us on social media. We're at SketchWatchPlay on Twitter and also Facebook.com/SketchWatchPlay. And we encourage you to leave feedback on those, leave reviews on iTunes, or even email us directly at sketchwatchplay@gmail.com. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, and even suggest possible topics for us to talk in the future. We are open to those. So I'm pretty sure this ends one of the longest spaces in between episodes that we've ever had. I was just checking our feed today, and we did have a similar lengthy pause between, I think, the Rayman and Yuri on Ice episodes. I can't remember why. But yeah, it's been, by the time this goes up, it'll probably have been about a month and a half since the Death Parade episode got published. And really, the reason behind that, it's a multitude of reasons that I have been bringing up on the Facebook and Twitter accounts. So if you've read those, you know that for a long time, the original plan for this episode was to bring back my brother Patrick as a guest. So go listen to the Pokemon or Christopher Nolan Batman episodes to hear him. So we were going to do another big retrospective on the Ninja Turtles franchise as a whole, since the two of us grew up on them, and it's a property that's continued to be revived and reinterpreted, particularly in TV and movies. Our plan is to cover all the TV shows and all the movies, and touch on some other random other memories like games and comics and the like. But we had to hold off recording plans for a little while, because first, at the end of July, our parents finally kicked off this family vacation to Ireland they've been planning for a while. So them, me, Patrick, and our sister around the world we have some ancestral roots there on my dad's side mainly, so it was a place we'd be interested in seeing. It wasn't a place with easy internet access, and we were busy enough visiting a lot of places and doing stuff with as a family. So once we got back in early August, we started planning things again. But since the plan was discussed, like I said, every Turtles property to varying degrees, and Patrick hasn't seen much of them beyond, I think, the 4Kids show and the CG movie were the last Turtles-related things he watched. So he requested to me give him a little more time to lay the recording so he could get up to speed on things and check out a lot of these for the first time. And unfortunately, a few days before that planned recording, his girlfriend suffered a death in the family, and he took a cross-country trip for the rest of that week to spend some time with her and her family at home. And by this point, we mutually agreed we should bump this TMNT talk up to be episode 31, and I should reach out to previous guests and possible new ones to see who would want to fill this void and what they would want to talk about. And Ben was the first to properly jump at the offer and get back to me, and suggested a series that I have heard about for many years, but I've never actually watched. So I thought it was a cool pick, and I was interested in both finally seeing this and sharing my impressions of it here, along with some other recent media we've consumed. So, Ben, for those who missed it, you made your first appearance on this show earlier this year when you joined both me and Chris to discuss Voltron Legendary Defender, which we all heartily recommend, and I believe just had a new season on Netflix. But for any listeners who don't remember or missed that episode, tell us a little about yourself and your interest in projects, old and new.
So I am a 2D animator professionally, and I draw a lot and consume a lot of video games and stuff like that, and also been a longtime friend of Chris's.
Yes, and I had actually seen your art before, but it wasn't until more recently that I knew you knew Chris personally, which was cool.
Mm-hmm. And I was on here before. You guys asked me to talk about Voltron, and I've actually haven't seen. I'm like 2 seasons behind right now, actually.
You're still like 4 seasons ahead of me, or however many there are. I still need to catch up.
But right now I work full time for a internet security awareness company that produces animated training videos that are sort of like movies. And in my spare time, I work on my own personal project, Slash. Mm-hmm. And I was also working on an indie game, Tangerine, which it was supposed to be a thing between animated projects where I was going to take a break because I was a little burnt out from Slash, and now I'm kind of burnt out from making video games. So I've completely jumped back into working on Slash. So
I get it.
I'm working on the 3rd episode now, and I'm also in the middle of redoing the intro.
Oh, so you're doing, because it's been both a webcomic and a web cartoon, right?
Yeah, so it originally started as a comic series, and I remade it as an animated series.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and so there's 2 episodes out right now, and it's been about maybe a year to 2 years between now and the release of the 2nd episode.
Mm-hmm.
and I took like a little bit of a hiatus because I was also kind of burnt out. And now I'm gonna finish the last 2 episodes. So it was originally planned as a 5-episode series, but I think it's gonna end up being a 4-episode series with longer episodes.
Oh, I can see that. So you don't have to. It's not like you have to throw out a lot of story material.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why. I kind of just had 5 episodes embedded in my brain, and when I kind of looked over the material, I was like, this really could just be 2 episodes.
Okay, that's cool.
2 more episodes instead of 3 more episodes.
Yeah, and I'll really quickly just throw out a couple of other personal updates myself, and not to try and be a eutist or anything, because it's been a while. I've been doing some more YouTube stuff. I guess relevant to what we talked about in the past. I put up a trailer the other week. I'm finally finishing, speaking of web animation, the next WarioWare Tuned episode. Because if you know me, you know I love that series, and WarioWare Gold came out earlier this month and has totally reignited my fandom for that series. I've also been doing a lot of shit posting about it on Tumblr and Twitter and the like. One thing I did was edit. Have you played WarioWare?
I've played classic WarioWare.
Do you remember that alien?
Yes,
so
I do.
His cutscene in this is him going to a drive-thru and finding out they're out of burgers. And I dubbed it over with the scene from The Big Sick where he's Kumail Nanjiani screaming obscenities at the intercom. And some girl got such a kick out of it, she drew proper Orbulon fan art of him screaming those lines, which that's the first time I've seen anything like that happen, which blew my mind. So, yeah, mainly working on that and some drawings. The other one drawing, it took me long enough. Our recent episode with Felipe Diaz Vera, where we talked about our rhythm game retrospective, I finished drawing a proper custom thumbnail art for it, which is like a bunch of the characters from games we talked about, Parappa, Elite Agents.
Yeah, I saw that actually.
Yes, Ooh La La, and a bunch. And so if you go and re-download the episode or whatever app you use, it'll be there. And not just that, I finally went and added timestamps for all the individual games we talk about. So if you just want to jump to Parappa or Guitar Hero or the like, it'll be a lot easier now. And lastly, I have brought back the fast, and that's certainly ended up being the most popular thing I do on YouTube. I've done some changes regarding the videos I've done with my grandma. Like I recently did the Smash Brothers one, and I've done some movie stuff in the past with her, because people love them, but I didn't want that to be the defining feature of my channel. So it is migrated, and she will now be having her own independent channel. Which people seemed okay with. I did a video elaborating on it, no dislikes or anything. So I'm glad people are willing to deal with that, and I'm fine with the rest of the videos I normally do getting less views, because react videos are huge on YouTube, and she's a very good source for that. And I'm hoping that our next one, which I will hopefully be recording 2 days from this recording, she has never seen Toy Story.
Oh man,
she had never seen any Disney Renaissance films until I showed them to her. She hadn't seen Beauty and the Beast. She hadn't seen Aladdin. She hadn't seen Lion King. And now Beauty and the Beast is her favorite cartoon that I've ever watched with her. So it took her long enough. And
I'm excited for her. I wish I could reset and be in that state where I'd never seen like a lot of the Renaissance stuff.
Yeah, or Toy Story. Still,
yeah,
wonderful film. I rewatched in preparation. Holds up great. So I'll be recording her thoughts to that, and assuming she has enough good reactions, which I think she will. Going by, I didn't record the Disney ones. I think I said this before to Chris or someone. When we watched Lion King, she was remembering all the African names. So it's like, oh, there's Mufasa, there's Nala, but she couldn't remember Scar's name. She just called him like the bad thing, and I was like. Granted, the only 2 actors she recognized were James Earl Jones and Whoopi Goldberg. She was really excited to hear James Earl Jones, so maybe that helped. But
he is great in that.
Oh, he's fantastic. And Chris gave me a lot of shit when I said he didn't cry at his death as a kid. But okay, that's enough. I don't
think I cried either, but
I was sad. But yeah, moving on. So we have our 2 main. Oh no, we have 1 main topic to talk about, but we have our 2 current media to talk about. First one that we'll get to is something that I've seen, but you haven't, but you're okay with talking spoilers. And the second is something we have both gotten lately, and there's not really that much to spoil story-wise, because it's kind of a nostalgia type thing. But you know me. You know I'm not going to let any Marvel MCU movie skip this podcast other than Guardians 2, but that's going to get its own episode someday. And granted, I was late to seeing it just because of personal priorities, but I knew I wanted to. So last weekend, I finally went and saw Ant-Man and the Wasp.
You go low, I'll go high. I have wings. Why would I go low?
And now I don't feel bad about saying the original Ant-Man took me by surprise with how much I ended up enjoying it. Because that was, lately they've been making some deeper cuts for who the characters they introduce are. Like, who had heard of the Guardians before their movie, or Captain Marvel, or Doctor Strange, or Ant-Man. And he's also one of the ones that's the hardest sell ability-wise. Like, that sounds silly, but I thought they made it work. They overcame what could have been a hokey gimmick. It did some creative and fun and very funny stuff with it. So I hope this would be able to replicate that experience with that first one, because MCU sequels, there are a lot of good ones, but they can still be hit or miss. Look at Thor: The Dark World or Iron Man 2, or even Age of Ultron.
I was going to say Iron Man 2.
Yeah, or even Age of Ultron, which I think is really good, but not as good as the other Avengers movies. Mm-hmm. So I'll say real quick, I think I don't remember if I said it already. You said you haven't seen it, but you're up to what the spoilers are on it, so you're okay with me talking about it.
I've been fully spoiled. But
okay, because there are some interesting, I think, seeds being planted for future movies. But so yeah, obviously I'm going to talk at spoiler talk. So, and we're also going to end it by talking about how it connects to Infinity War and Avengers 4. So we're going to spoil that too at a certain point. We'll give a heads up there. Now, I will say I didn't find the actual story to be quite as good as the original. Kind of more straightforward, less of what I feel is an important conflict. And I also think the opening 10 minutes were a little clunky. Like, it starts with another extended flashback to what happened to Janet Van Dyne when we kind of knew everything we needed to. And the first scene of Scott is like, so the idea is, where was he during Infinity War? Because we thought he was possibly like broken out at the end of Civil War. Turns out he compromised with the government and was placed under a year's house arrest, which is about to run out by the time the movie's starting. So it's showing him like reconnecting with his daughter Cassie, who I loved Cassie in the first movie, and she's still great here too. Side characters that I was worried would wear out their welcome here, because I also loved Luis and the other burglar cohorts. No, they managed to not feel repetitive or played out, which I appreciate. That can be hard. But the opening scene with him and Cassie in the house feels like something of like a goofy family comedy. I was like, I'm not sure. But then he meets up with Hank and Hope again, and we start to actually get into what the actual plot is. And it just it doesn't let up from that point. The pacing's really good. It stays funny. It does more creative stuff, and I had a blast with it, thankfully.
Oh wow! Would you highly recommend it?
Yes, yes.
And the first one?
Yes, the only I would still slightly recommend the first one, because I think, like I said, I feel like that's the one that hits the ground running and doesn't have a clunky opening. It also, the opening act and the Wasp also does fall victim to having to drop a lot of exposition to catch you up on these characters. And like I said, even though there is an emotional center to it, the way things play out in the second half didn't feel as like there wasn't that sense of urgency to me compared to the first with all the Yellow Jacket stuff. But it's still very funny, and there's still some charm to it. Like it just, I do like how it does seem to meaningfully, like, the emphasis here isn't on, technology in the wrong hands, or at least not to some degree, because everything that happens with Ghost, she's not, after they knocked character-wise, Killmonger and Thanos knocked it out of the park, Ghost herself is kind of a more standard villain, along with, I guess I'm going to spoilers here. So Lawrence Fishburne is in this, which made me stop and think, is he the first big name from the DC Extended Universe to have a notable role in the MCU?
Oh, wow, he, crossed over?
yeah, and he's not a newspaper boss, but he's an expert scientist who was a former ally with Hank, and they had a bad falling out. But yeah, I think he could be the first in terms of playing important roles in both those movies, and not like a bit thing. Though, other DC movies, when we finally see Janet Van Dyne, it's Michelle Pfeiffer, and she's the OG movie Catwoman, so there you go. Mm. Also, still looks great for 60 or however, but not shocking. She's got that. Also, I did find Hope a lot more attractive when she grew her hair out. I'll say that as well. Actually, no. Just make me sound like a perp. Ghost is gorgeous once you actually see her, and I hadn't heard of her actress Hannah John Kamen, but apparently she's on Game of Thrones, which I've yet to watch. So there you go.
Who does she play on Game of Thrones?
I can Google it. Do you watch Game of Thrones?
Oh yeah. That's okay, like the one show I'm 100% caught up on.
Hang on, Ornella.
I have no idea who that is.
Let me see if if there's a page for her on Wikipedia or something. We shouldn't get too sidetracked, but they make her, and it's revealed that the Lawrence Fishburne character is also her ally, but they aren't as horrible. They aren't as horrible as a lot of other villains because they aren't really killing. She's someone who went through another failed quantum realm experiment and was left in this kind of space-time perpetual flux and a lot of pain. And, okay, yeah, there's no page for Nella on what I'm seeing, so I don't know, maybe a smaller character. So she's, because the end of the first movie made Hank realize it's possible to escape the quantum realm and survive it, then he's like, maybe we can get Janet out of there, even as long as she's been down there. And Ghost is like, because the quantum realm has so much unexplored energy and benefits, and it did this to me, I want you, by force, I want to take your tech and Janet to fix me. But there's when they first, meet her and she does her exposition dump, and it's also, revealed, oh no, Lawrence Fishburne steps into the room, meets with her, and I was like, oh, I know where this is going. No, they actually still have something of a moral code, because she's freaking out because he's thinking like you only have a few weeks left before you just disintegrate. And there's a part where she's about to run off like, I'm going to kidnap Scott's daughter. Then he'll have to help me. And he's like, he just puts his foot down. Like, that's the line I'm not willing to cross. And if you do it, I'm not helping you. And so she doesn't.
I always think it's interesting when they just don't make the villains just like, I'm evil because I woke up like that one day.
Well, she's more desperate. Like, she's in perpetual pain. She's about to die. And this happened to her when she was a kid, and he's been raising her ever since. But it is still like, and even though they're doing some bad, destructive, dangerous things, I don't think they ever actually kill anybody, or even at most maybe some thugs. They make it clear, like there's a side villain played by Walton Goggins, channeling Matthew McConaughey's Southern characters, and there's some good moments with them. But they make it clear like him and his goons are dicks, so it's not too bad if they get messed up. But yeah, they do more fun stuff with. I'm sure you saw in the trailers, they revisit the giant Ant-Man concept from Civil War.
Yeah,
but even bigger. And it actually messes with him where it's like he faints because the air's too thin for his size or something like that. Like they touch more on some of the scientific consequences of it. And there's also some really funny stuff where his belt is manufacturing at certain points. Did you see the part where he has to sneak into the school?
Did not see the scene when they're in the school.
It's in the trailers. There's a little joke where Cassie gave him a world's greatest grandma trophy because it was the only family member type they had. And he hid his old suit in it because, obviously nobody wanted to find it. And so he has to sneak into school to get it for plot reasons. It malfunctions, and he turns he's stuck at 2-3 feet tall. And so they crack a bunch of jokes about him being kid-sized. And when he gets back in the car, Hank's like, oh, you want a juice box and some crackers? And his response is just, do you actually have those? Well, did you see the first Ant-Man?
No, I didn't see that either. Ant-Man was actually a hard sell for me because I just, when it comes to the Marvel movies, if I wasn't a fan of their comics, I wasn't really interested in their movies. So Doctor Strange, Thor, and Ant-Man were all hard sells for me. And I ended up seeing most of it. I saw 2 of the 3 Thor movies, and I saw Doctor Strange, and Ant-Man was the last on my list.
Okay. I mean, you might want to change that because I feel like it might be kind of important in Avengers 4 compared to some of the other series.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, I've been hearing that, too, and I've heard nothing but good things about it. It's just...
Yeah, they're really funny and really creative, and did you read his comics back in the day?
Not his specific comics. I would see him in, crossover stuff.
And he didn't appeal to you?
Stuff. Yeah, I just never... I don't know. I never really took
I would give the first one a chance, because it's carved out its own niche, I feel, because he starts out something of an everyman with a legit, criminal checkered past, but he's also a family man. He's divorced, but still thinks the world of his daughter. And I think that does a good job of making him endearing. And with some of the jokes, he almost gives me Deadpool vibes at certain times. It's just did you see him in Civil War?
Yes.
What a fanboy he is. Captain America, I've been shaking your hand too long. Oh, I know you too. You're great. So yeah, no, I would just say check his first one out, and then because my MVP for the movies in terms of side characters is Luis, Michael Peña's character, who's a longtime partner of crime with Scott, along with 2 others, and they still managed to have him do his thing without feeling too derivative or anything. He actually comes off a little smarter in this, actually, which makes sense because he moved up career-wise, but he's still a dope at heart and in the best way. His idea of being cool is after the chase scene ends and they're resting, he just pulls up and yells at Scotty, "Hey Scotty, what's up?" The classic commercial, right, Scotty? And there's an ongoing joke with him in Truth Serum that I won't spoil, but totally fits what a big goof he is.
Yeah,
But-
I'm definitely going to check them out at some point.
Okay, but also, so I wanted to get to the ending, not just the Infinity War thing, because I was talking about the villains. So you heard what becomes of them at the end, right?
Yeah, somebody, I had a moment where I was like, do I want to know or do I want to know? Don't I want to know? And I just directly asked somebody, and they told me.
Did you have the first one spoiled too?
No.
Okay.
Not the first one.
Watch that too. But yeah, so long story short, while they're fighting, while Ant-Man the Wasp fight Ghost, Hank is able to venture into the quantum realm himself and recover Janet. He almost goes nuts in there, but she's adapted to it over the years and even has some powers from it that I'm sure will be touched on in the future. So they come home and she's able to heal Ghost just using those powers pretty easily. And in the end, Ghost and I can't remember the name of Lawrence Fishburne's character, they're reformed, but they like she wants him to abandon her and just go live his life, and he's like, no, I'm giving up on you. So I guess the idea is they're going to hiding or something, but they're very much alive and not really evil anymore. So I'm guessing there could be some stuff to follow up on in a future movie, Ant-Man or otherwise. But so yeah, now let's talk about, since this is the first of two movies to come out between Infinity War and Avengers 4, the other being Captain Marvel early next year. And so yeah, we're getting to Infinity War spoilers here, but after seeing this and hearing this was set before or during Infinity War, I had a guess about what one of the after credits stingers would be, and technically I was right, but there's another huge wrench in the works. So you're aware of what happens there too, as well too, right?
Yeah, and what's funny, I actually jokingly said what happens.
Were you talking about the death or what happens to Scott? Because that's the unpredictable part for me.
What happens to Scott, actually?
Okay. So, long story short, Hank and Janet have settled back down, and I think they also start to again tease that Hope and Scott are on the verge of hooking up or possibly have. So at the end, because Hank's big invention in this is a proper tunnel portal to the easy access to quantum realm and back. So the stinger is Scott shrinks and goes, I guess they're on like a roof or some facility. He goes in to gather energy. They could also help Ghost further and also have other beneficial things. And Hope, Hank, and Janet are, his backup faculty on the outside. And they're about to pull him back in when it cuts, he's in there and it just cuts to static and he has no idea what's going on. Cut out, pile of ash. This happened when Thanos did the snap. So those three are dead and Scott is now stranded in the quantum realm.
Right.
So it's not. I'd called that. Yeah, I'm sure one of the things we're going to see which of this cast is affected by the snap. I didn't count on now Scott is in the same situation Janet was in, and so one of the things that people are starting to talk about, we're seeing more and more, maybe accidental hints about Avengers 4. The big one being that there's probably going to be a time jump in it. That
would be interesting.
Have you heard about this?
Not at all, no.
So Robert Downey Jr. was doing some interviews, and they were noting his hair was dyed a different color, and his beard had some gray added to it, which he does not have naturally. And apparently Gwyneth Paltrow accidentally said something at some point that at some point she filmed stuff with her and Tony having a kid because they were about to get married in Infinity War. And so people are thinking the big theory about fixing the snap has been time travel, not so much somebody gets the gauntlet, but that maybe they can find a way to go back to the events of Infinity War and alter that course of history. But it could take a while in the movie universe for them to figure it out. But so this also means that if we go forward a couple of years, because they establish Janet was stuck in the quantum realm for about 30, I think they say. If Scott is stuck there for, 5 to 10 years or whatever, he could, by the time, however they find him, he could have some of those powers as well and maybe start to figure out how to utilize those for what they're aiming for. And granted, I'm still thinking that once they fix things, we're going to go back to that, the timeline won't be set still 5-10 years in the future, especially because, we're seeing Spider-Man Far From Home being filmed. They're not aging Tom Holland up or anything.
Yeah, right.
So I'm guessing, a lot of the stuff that happens, if they do the time jump, a lot of the stuff we see there may never be able to happen once things, if we're still wondering, are they going to kill Tony in Avengers 4? So that could happen.
I hope they do it, because I feel like this to like an actual comic book event that they've ever gotten. Like I'm here for all of it. I like all of it.
I feel like we're going to see the Snap deaths undone. Maybe some of the other ones before that. I'm maybe Vision and Gamora. I think Loki's done, but they've been saying, the actors have been confirming, there's going to be more deaths in Avengers 4 besides those, and they're going to stick. So, long story short, get set for more heartbreak, and we're still bracing for Iron Man and Cap. I hope Thor gets a happy ending, though. It's been rough for him lately.
He's had a hard time.
He went through some shit in Infinity War, poor guy, and Ragnarok too, actually. But yeah, so I like the fact that they didn't just give us the expected thing. They threw an additional crazy factor in the works that adds even more speculation. And I mean, I'm also wondering that, we're theorizing all this stuff about the time jump. Maybe it takes Captain Marvel a long time to get back to Earth. We don't know how far out she is or how easy it is for her to get there and back. Because we know she's going to be part of it because of that teaser. And granted, I don't know if her own movie is going to have anything to do with Infinity War. It'll have to be in The Stinger because it's set in the 90s. But I'm excited to see that kind of stuff. And I don't know anything about Carol Danvers as a character, so I'm interested to see what she has to offer, like personality and ability wise.
Yeah, I have like vague knowledge of her.
I mean, I know power wise, she's the closest thing they had to a Superman Supergirl type. Like, she is tough. But I don't know anything about what she is like as a person. Because that's what I liked about... I like Doctor Strange in Infinity War more than his own movie, because outside the first 10 minutes of his movie, he was kind of just almost like an audience avatar, but now he's back to being cocky. And I just love the fact that he was the first guy to really go toe-to-toe with Tony's ego.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, so...
And actually, I agree. I liked him better in Infinity War.
And that's why I hope he gets a sequel, because he's past the training being wondrous over everything, and now he can get back to being kind of a douchebag. Yeah,
no more origin story. We can have an actual...
Man, he's one of the only ones who I'm glad we're done with the origin story, because so many of those... there are a lot of superior movies where the origin's the best one. Granted, Marvel's not always there. Captain America got better. Thor got better eventually. Iron Man didn't get better, but his sequels are pretty fun. Guardians, I actually do love Guardians 2 more than the first. I don't know how common that is, but I think a lot of people like both of those. Also, side note, it has been confirmed that Guardians 3 has been officially delayed production-wise. The whole James Gunn kerfuffle, they're not going to be able to work it out in time.
Yeah, I wonder what's going to happen with that, because
they're not. They've set they put their foot down. They're not going to bring him back as director. But the main thing that's up in the air isn't just who's going to direct, but Gunn had finished the script because he wrote the first two movies, and people really, myself included, really want them to use that. Apparently, even Kevin Feige, head of Marvel Studios, is begging Disney at least let us use that.
Because I've heard even some of the actors have threatened not.
Dave Bautista has been pissed about this whole situation. They've all sided with Gunn, but Bautista is like, if you both fire him and dump his script, I'm going to do everything I can to quit this movie. And I don't know if he is contractually, if he has any chance of that, but he has been very, very vocal about this. I feel for him. But that's a discussion for another day. I think that whenever we talk about Guardians 2 and I give it an episode, me and whoever is on, I don't know, maybe you can come back for it if you want. We can get to give our whole thoughts on that whole situation.
I'll always come back.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it's one for the last time. You were fun on the the Voltron episode. I guess this last 20 minutes has been a Marvel episode too, not just Ant-Man. But I'll wrap up my thoughts on that. Yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp, I had a ton of fun with it. It has a great car chase scene I should mention too, because they incorporate the shrink and grow thing into it, as well as Ghosts. She has a neat gimmick, which is that because she's kind of out of sync, she can just kind of phase through anything. That's why they nicknamed her Ghost, obviously. And so she's going in and out of vehicles and buildings and just this weird ethereal character who also happens to be very good looking when she takes her helmet off. And again, happy to see Lawrence Fishburne, and kind of trippy to see him not playing Perry White, but in a superhero movie.
Yeah,
kind of
right.
like how... It's kind of like how, I always wonder, if Michael Clark Duncan was still around, they probably could have gotten him for another side role too, because that old Daredevil movie wasn't MCU. But I just always think about...
Yeah, you know what? That was my favorite thing about that Daredevil movie.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard a lot of people say he was great. He was perfect casting.
Yeah, it's really terrible, but it's definitely... I would say it's at least worth seeing.
I'll watch it someday. I like the Netflix one, but I know this is very different, and Vincent D'Onofrio is good in that too. But I actually know some people complained, why are you making Kingpin black? And people point out literally everything else about him matches that character's physicality perfect.
He was great.
What bald white actor is that big and intimidating? Come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ant-Man the Wasp, I recommend. But now let's get into something that you have experienced, and I have as well. And less to do with spoilers here and more just general opinions, we have recently gotten another double dose of nostalgic remasters, or re-releases, I guess, with the Mega Man X Legacy Collection.
No, this isn't happening! There's no reason for me to go on. What? What am I fighting for?
And we're going to specifically talk the first one, because neither of us owns that. So, for those who, I'm going to keep tabs on that, but are aware of the Mega Man X series, that series had 8 core entries. First 3 were on Super NES, next 3 were on PS1, the last 2 were on PS2. And they also a RPG spin-off, I believe, on the PS2. But this just has, similar to how they split the core Mega Man games up into 2 Legacy Collections, they split this one cleanly in half. So Legacy Collection 1 is 1 through 4, and the other one is 5 through 8. I know there's
it's like they split it in half between the good ones and the bad ones.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I know I've heard there's been some lashback from fans, like, why'd you just put it all in one game? I'm like, well, one, when you split apart, they're cheaper. Each one's $20. And 2, it is pretty universally agreed that from 5 onwards, the series dips in quality. So if you're completionist, you can get them, but you can also just go for the good ones. So
yeah,
Ben,
I like X8 too, but not enough to like justify
$20.
Yeah.
So what is your history with the X series and Mega Man? Have you played all of them previously?
Yeah, I think I've played every one except for X6.
Okay,
And
so no, I think you might be able to have some good insight into this, because I will admit I'm a very casual Mega Man fan. I've played the first 3 of the classic series, and X-wise, I never beat the original X1, but I beat the PSP remake, Maverick Hunter.
Oh, that's a good one.
It is a good one, yeah. And I also bought X4 on PS1, also a good one. I played that completion, but I played a little bit of 2 and 3 now, and have been revisiting X1 and X4 since I never beat the Super NES original. And the only classic Mega Man that I ever beat was the Game Boy version of Mega Man 2. I can't remember if that's considered easier or harder, but I didn't have
pretty hard.
Okay, yeah. Well, I dedicated myself to it, because that's the thing that it makes Mega Man intimidating to me, is that it is a series known for being pretty unforgiving.
Yeah, I think I remember like actually trying out the Game Boy ones and being like, nope, because it was so hard.
I didn't have an NES, so it was all I could do. But yeah, no, I do like a lot of like the basic concepts behind it. I've always loved the art direction for both Classic and X, because X is the more gritty and dark of the series. It's basically Shadow the Hedgehog done right.
Yeah.
But I also love the fact that all the Robot Master equivalents in X, instead of just being blank man, instead of just being a bunch of Damon Wayans, they just they went with animals, which I feel can get them to get a lot more creative.
Yeah, well, you know what I think is funny is that like they always the animals are always Maverick hunters, and then all of a sudden they'll be like Storm Eagle betrayed us, and I feel like if you work in the Maverick hunter base, you look at all the animals with shifty eyes because they're always the animals. Oh man,
I'll bet they're racist towards the animals now. It's Zootopia all over again. But yeah, no, that's another thing. A little Blade Runner influence. Because all the sentient androids are Reploids, but if you go evil independent, you're a Maverick.
I did think that too. It was a big deal. I thought that was a big deal that they were all animals in this version.
Yeah, but I'm sure it was they just thought it would be a cool thing design wise, and like it doesn't matter how much the plot backs that up, because even though X has X, even from the first game, has emphasized plot more than Mega Man, but that's still not saying much compared to other games that are plot driven. I'm not saying I don't blame people who do get caught up in the lore, because there's some cool characters there, some cool ongoing stuff with Sigma and Zero and the like. Though it is still a shame that X4's English dubbing is just as bad as Mega Man 8.
Oh yeah, but I love X4. I think that might be my favorite one.
Yeah, no, X4 was probably my favorite of the ones I've played too. It looks like, man, I wish they had done more classic Mega Man on PS1 too, because 8 and X4 look gorgeous graphically.
Yeah, and I was really obsessed with both of those because I felt like
I like Mega Man 8 too.
Like this whole...
Oh, you know what? I did beat Mega Man 8. There you go.
Yeah, and they have this whole like anime shell where I get the sort of feeling like you're playing a whole season of an anime for both of them.
Yeah, that
was kind of like my favorite thing about them.
I love that. Like the English voice acting is terrible, but they're still cool to watch.
Yeah.
Though actually another cool bonus is that from any point from the main menu, you can choose to play the Japanese versions of all of these games, and save data will still transfer over.
I did not know that.
Yeah, the text is not translated, but you can hear the original Japanese versions of the anime scenes, which are naturally a lot better. Because even as a kid, I was
considering trying to find the Japanese Sega Saturn version just to hear the different voice actors. But
no, just load up. I mean, you can also do YouTube, but if you want to be authentic, you can play it in Japanese, and whenever there's a scene, it's that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because I mean, man, even when I played, I was like, why the hell did they give X that same girl voice that from Mega Man 8? Like, it fits even less coming out of him.
But now at this point, though, that's like the voice of my childhood. That high pitched, squeaky Mega Man.
I've talked about in the past about how I love the Sonic OVA dub, and I know it's terrible.
Yeah, I think I have a penchant for really bad dubs anyway.
I guess we'll slightly touch on that in our main topic, though I wouldn't say really bad. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on what have you messed with in the collection so far, like in terms of titles you're revisiting?
So I played through X1 in its entirety. I tried to do a 100% run, but I couldn't. I missed some energy tanks, and I'm still going through X4. And I actually I feel like I used to be able to speed run X4, but I can't. I'm having some trouble with it now.
I feel like X4 is a little easier than the Super NES ones. I remember it being that way.
And X1 seems to be a lot harder than I remember.
So do 2 and 3 from what I've tried, but again, I'm a Mega Man amateur. But
so
yeah,
what system are you playing it on?
I got the Switch version.
That's what I got too.
It's a good fit for the portable mode.
Yeah,
It's the pixel art anyway. And I will say, not my I wish there were more border options because I find the default art kind of boring, and but I also don't like the black screen borders. So I just did the one that they. So have you tried? I haven't tried it. Have you tried that they call it the new Maverick Challenge, I believe?
No, I actually haven't tried that yet. I kind of treated that like it was just like an add-on thing, but I saw somebody playing it on YouTube. And,
I'm intimidated by
my interest, but I'm sort of saving it for after I finish the games.
That's fair. So like I said, I've been intimidated. So for those who don't know what this is, the big new addition mode-wise, because I don't think they really added anything to the games themselves in terms of content or anything other than the Japanese option. There's a new mode where the idea is they combine different Maverick Hunter bosses from different X games. So you're fighting like 2 of them at once, maybe 3 in some, I don't remember. And sometimes it's themed. It's not randomly chosen or anything. And I think they give you some weapons. You're not just with the Mega Buster, and you have some of his armor from later games as well. So you have like
I think you get to pick a loadout beforehand.
That might be it too. Yeah, you're not. You got to sign up just a one preset, and it sounds. I've heard both good and bad opinions on it, but people do seem to say it is a really cool novelty, especially for longtime fans who remember these characters individually and want to see what it's like when you have to. I mean, that's a lot more stuff that you have to keep track of.
Yeah, and I think on paper it sounds kind of bad, but can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I was just interrupting you.
I was saying on paper it sounds kind of like tacked on, but like watching people play it, it actually looks kind of cool.
Yes,
I'm
just
a lot
again
more interested
intimidating.
in it.
I will say it's more of a minor thing. One thing I am glad they added the Rookie Hunter mode.
So I haven't tried that yet. What do they do?
Okay, it is basically they have added the equivalent of an easy mode to all these games because I believe it applies to all the games in Legacy Collection too. The one thing I know it does for sure is that it halves the damage you take from any hazard or attack.
Oh man.
And I want to say in some games it makes spikes not an insta kill, but I don't think they apply that to every game for whatever reason.
Where's the fun in that?
I prefer it because I'm not that good at these games. I feel like I would be willing to put up with them more if you didn't have limited lives, because I just don't got the patience to replay all these levels.
Yeah, that's understandable. But I feel like half of the fun is the stress of like trying not to fall on the spikes.
I'm trying to remember if you can toggle it from the pause menu if you want to do individual moments like that. But like I said, it's completely optional, and I still have fun with doing it that way because I mean, it's not as stressful for me. Like I said, if I was better at these games, it might be, and though I know one thing people have complained about, because did you play the original Legacy collections?
Yeah, like I think I had the GameCube one.
No, the recent ones because they re-released. This isn't the first compilation of these games, but this is for current gen systems. Because there was one for the one that was Mega Man 1 through 6, and then 7 through 10.
Right. I think I have that on.
So
PS4.
yeah, I have those. Also another good, certainly good, faithful, port. No real big. If there's slowdown, then it's from ish times that they were in the original games. So depending on how you feel about that, I'm fine with that. But also the other thing is that those basically had save state options. Not so here, which is bumming out a lot of people. It basically reconfigures the password function into a manual save and load after each stage is completed thing, which I know is bumming some people out.
Right, and there's also that thing where, like, when you get to the end, if you reach a point in Sigma's Palace, and then like you want to leave and come back later, it makes you start all the way from the beginning with like no e-tanks or anything.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, so maybe I don't know. Maybe they were trying to retain that frustration.
I honestly wonder if, here's my theory, they want to make it every feature universal across all the games, and maybe when you got to the 3D stuff with 7 and 8, they found it hard to pull off, because maybe those games handle saving differently as well. I didn't play them. And they said, let's not play favorites or whatever, which would be a dumb excuse. But, I mean, it could also just be a matter of deadlines. They probably they had it working, but had to do a lot more bug testing and didn't want to risk breaking the game with it. That is a very frequent reason for why some features are removed. But and also a nice. So I still feel like I might get the other one eventually, because I've heard people say some good things about 5, 6, and 8. 7 is definitely the black sheep, because that's when they went for full 3D and just totally botched it. Yeah,
X5 is definitely playable. I've beaten it. It's not as good as X4, but it's
step down.
A fun
so how would you
game.
sum up your thoughts on 6, 7, and 8?
Ooh, I haven't played 6 because I just heard nothing but terrible things about it. 8 has some problems, but I actually really like that one.
How do you feel about 7?
I haven't played 7 since it actually originally came out, and I remember at the time of playing it, I was like, "Oh, this isn't so bad," but like age might change my opinion of it.
That seems to be the case, and that wasn't even a game that was that well regarded when it came out. I can't blame them for trying to finally jump to 3D, but they did not do it right from the sound of it.
I do remember having a hard time with it, like having it be almost impossible to.
Yeah, but not for Mega Man reasons, just for clunky camera control reasons.
Yeah.
And 8, I'd say they seem to take the criticism to heart, because that it was still 3D graphics, but it went back to being a side scroller. And I have heard people say it's still not the glory days of 1 through 4, but this is a step up.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't bad.
Yeah, but I guess it didn't sell well enough for them to be like, let's make more. Though I'm wondering, Mega Man 11 is finally happening this year, and they have confirmed that happened because the Legacy collections have sold well. It's even come out like people were like, why did you just not do anything with the series for so long? They were honest. They were like, after Infinity left, we were just scared to touch it and possibly fuck it up.
I think it's great they're doing 11. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, it looks cool. And I love the art style, too, because I was never that big on not Mega Man 9 and 10 being NES style. I was like, no, I like 7 and 8. Do something more detailed. So now they're like, here you go. It also sounds like it's going to have voice acting that isn't terrible. Still kind of cheesy, but fun.
Yeah, Mega Man has like a grown man voice now.
Yeah, I mean, they can just get the people back from the old cartoon. Get back Scott McNeil and the like, German Dr. Wily. Or Surfer Dude, Proto Man. Bro, hey! But yeah, so anything else you want to say about this compilation?
I recommend it. I recommend
Same.
At least the first half.
The first one, yeah.
Yeah. If there's a price drop, I might check out the second one just to get X8.
I still think $20 is a good price for the total amount of hours in each one.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I just there's a part of me that's like, I don't want to spend the quote unquote full price on 4 games where I'm only going to play one.
Yeah, when you only like one of them.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe you'd be one of the rare people who likes 6. Total slight tangent, and actually, I guess this is in a case of I don't know what made me be in this mood, but lately I've dug out my 360, and I know I mentioned a couple months ago on the show, I bought Sonic 06 for like $4. I'm playing Sonic 06.
So how is it? Like, is it like, I know it's terrible, but like,
so here's the thing, and I might lose my credit for this. I don't think it's one of the worst games I've ever played, and I honestly don't even think it's the worst main Sonic game. Like, it's I think Shadow is still the worst. Even when that came out, I was like, this does not work on any level for me. But '06 is crazy flawed. Yeah, I still am not going to call it a good game. It still has, it feels like design-wise and bug-wise like a mid PS2 era platformer. Like, it is not up to snuff even for when it came out. But it's also not without good moments when you're doing the more conventional speed stuff. And I think it also helps that I've seen enough reviews and Let's Plays that I know how to handle a lot of the more infamous parts. Like that first silver boss fight, if you know his attack pattern, it is a breeze. It's just that until you learn that, it's the worst thing in the world. And obviously the graphics were never that good to begin with, and the story is still a joke. But hey, it was $4. It's hard for me to complain.
Yeah, I've been tempted to buy that, but like every time I go to,
you know what? Maybe this will help you. It actually is working for me in the same way vein as like a so bad it's good at points. But at least with like the writing. I did a tweet the other day. When you play as Rouge and she falls to her death, it is the worst scream. It is just her voice going, ah. And I was playing it and I accidentally killed her, and I just pulled up my phone camera and deliberately threw her into like a bottomless lake again just to hear, ah.
I'll just show how excited she is to be there.
It reminded me of, I know I told people, Rosalina's Star KO in Smash 4. It's the same thing, just, ah. Like, oh, I'm falling to my death. That's a shame. Or how Shadow, when he falls to his death, that's an over the top, no! No! It's, yeah, I was not the biggest fan of the 4Kids voices, and this...
Yeah, I didn't like those voices either.
Oh my god, the best one, though. I haven't gotten to it yet. When Sonic thinks Princess Elise is dead, and he just a dramatic, Elise! That's a YouTube clip as well. That is hilarious.
Police!
Like, they tried so hard to make you take this seriously, and I'm like, bad idea, guys. And now it's a decade later with Sonic Forces, and they never learn. But that's another talk. So yeah, we recommend Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1, and approach the second one at your own caution. Same with Sonic 06, but I think that's a given at this point. So
but I think for the price, you got a good deal.
For $4, it's hard to beat, even if you hate it. I mean, $4.
Yeah, there's some entertainment value to be had.
Getting lunch at Chipotle costs more than that. Come on. Right. So let's pause and get to our main. I was going to say main course, but I guess there is a lot to discuss there, so a lot of content.
At the end of their fierce battle, the stricken goddesses had split the continent, forming a new land. Since then, people have come to call this new continent Lodoss, the Accursed Island.
So when I talked to you on Twitter, and what I usually do is, on Twitter or Facebook, we always have our guests. If we have a guest, they pick the topic, or at least they do a list, and then me and Chris, if he's here, kind of consult on like what's one that we think we would probably be a good fit for, even if it's stuff we haven't seen. And you throw out some good ones, even like some old. A lot of it is stuff that you are definitely a man who is into vintage anime and like JRPGs and fighting games and the like.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing to be into, but I'm kind of inexperienced in both those, to be honest. But there was one you threw out that was not, for the version we're going to talk about primarily, is not a huge time sink, and it's one that's been on my bucket list because it's definitely sort of vintage at this point, but it's generally regarded as like this is a show I've heard held in high regard by anime fans for a very long time. Kind of like people say, like, if you want a very, a fantasy anime that sticks to, traditions established by like D&D and the like, then you really want to go to this. So we're talking about the early 90s, the OAV, the direct-to-video series Record of Lodoss War, which I believe, if Wikipedia's telling the truth, came out from 1991 to 1992 to tell a 13-episode story. This is a kind of interesting way of how this series came about. Like, one thing I think is worth mentioning about how anime conceptions work in Japan, especially compared to over here, like, I'd say 90% of anime movies and TV shows are based on some existing material. Often manga, but also just books, novels, like novellas, franchises. I don't know where that tradition came from, and they don't always do it. There's still plenty of well-regarded shows and movies that are fully original, but it is not that common. So where this came from is a series of fantasy novels from Japan by an author named, I hope I say this right, Ryo Mizuno. And the way that, do you know how he originally came up with this story?
Yeah, I actually found out about that recently.
It makes sense. It made sense when you look at the convention of this series. So in the late 80s, he was part of a group that was playing Dungeons and Dragons and retelling their stories through like some sort of otaku magazine, I believe, or some Japanese magazine. And he, in this case, was the dungeon master, which, and I still have yet to play D&D, and I probably will someday, but that is, I mean, even I know that is kind of the one in charge of establishing the mythology and continuity of this, laying down rules and building on the lore that you establish for this particular story. So if you look at this main cast of characters, they all fit a lot of the classic character classes: warrior, druid, mage, cleric, barbarian, even berserker later on. But by the time they were finishing this, I think it got enough positive feedback, and he was happy enough with it to kind of take that and make a proper novel series out of it. And I'm sure he had to change some stuff because the series has never had the official D&D label or anything. Officially, it has nothing to do with it. But these books were successful enough to get an adaptation by, this actually surprised me, by the studio Madhouse. It actually kind of relevant to this podcast because we just talked about Death Parade, which they did last episode. They are very highly regarded. They did a lot of other classic anime movies like Wicked City, Ninja Scroll, more recently stuff like Red Line, and a lot of well-regarded shows. The first one that comes to mind for me is Death Note. And I will say, not a complaint of the visuals, this show I was surprised it did not look like a conventional Madhouse show. It kind of feels like any studio could have done it in terms of its like vibe. It's very rooted in the classic conventions of anime design and animation from that late 80s, early 90s period. And I will say first off that, granted, I did not watch the entire series due to time constraints. I got 8 episodes in out of 13. I feel like it was a good point to cut it off for me there because it kind of wraps up the conflict that's built up to that point. And I know the remaining ones, and you'll touch on that, they made up some new ones. But I did notice the first episode looks visually spectacular.
That first episode is amazing.
Yeah, but story-wise, it's interesting because it's a little confusing. It is not an introduction. It's an in media res kind of side story. The party is already...
That might be my biggest complaint about the series, if I had one, is how... Like, I love the way that it starts, but at the same time, it is kind of confusing because they just sort of drop you into the action.
Yes, they're not really... They can kind of establish some of the characters' personalities and abilities, but they're not telling you what is their goal, what are they doing here, what's the driving force behind all of this. And I did a little research on this, and I think maybe it was the reason they went this kind of in media res filler adventure was they wanted to not get too bogged down by setup and kind of hook newcomers in with a cool, set of characters and visuals, because man, all the action stuff in that episode, some of the best like animation from that period I've seen, I gotta say. These gargoyles, this dragon, all the spells and moves, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's like I had been playing a lot of RPGs at the time, and it's like finally seeing on screen what you felt like you were doing when you were playing those games.
Yeah. I honestly, if what we talk about as the show as a whole doesn't interest you, I would still check out that first episode because other than its very end that kind of does start to establish some of the threats and such, it's pretty standalone and lightweight. And I was a little frustrated and actually a little apprehensive once we got to episode 2 because you can tell they probably spent a lot of their budget on it and on that first one. I'm not going to say it looks terrible because one thing worth noting is these are very intricate character designs. Like every one of the important characters has a lot of individual assets to their designs and their outfits and armor and weapons and the like. And
one thing I had been talking about was the king. I feel like the king is so detailed every time.
That beard.
He's on screen. All they animated is his mouth. Like only his mouth can move.
yeah.
Because he's got so much hair and like.
It's an older guy. They can kind of excuse that until he finally fights later on. But yeah, I will say, like every time we see these characters, I didn't really see parts where it was these guys talk to each other and they just looked off or really choppily animated. It's on model and it's animated decently. It's just, for the most part, it goes to kind of a more standard animation frame rate, and that kind of it's mainly the frame rate that goes down. And for action scenes, they do a lot of still images or rapid cuts. So that was frustrating a little bit, but then as it goes on, it starts to pick up again in the budget area. I'm guessing they were starting to see some levels at CES, because they were probably releasing like one every couple of months, and they were like, okay, we have an excuse to sink some more time and money into these later parts.
Yeah, I also noticed, though, like on some of the later fights, they definitely recycle a lot of animation.
Maybe we're talking about the later episodes I didn't get to, but I'll leave you to, we will get to that. Okay. So this is very much, in terms of its rules and the types of people in it, this is a very traditional, conventional fantasy, feudal knights in armor in the world. So it's like it's humans, light and dark elves, dwarves, certain people who specialize in sorcery, and the beast men and the orcs and the goblins that don't get along with anybody but themselves. Oh, and dragons. Can't forget dragons. That's a gradual build outside the first episode. But this is, I'm guessing this goes even more into the novels. This is still like they spend a lot of time not just on the main characters, but kind of the big picture of this world, telling you about the different regions, their histories with each other, the people in charge of them, some of the politics and background behind that. So there's some decent amount of world building to it. Anything you want to throw in?
I think what's interesting is that they sort of like establish this whole world, but you only really spend a lot of time on Lodoss, and I think that adds a lot to it. Like you feel like there's so much more happening around this island, and you're only getting this like little piece.
Yes,
of the
and
island.
Granted, we got some stuff about other areas later on that you informed me was not good, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So I would say, our number one main character is this kid named Parn. And I will say one thing that worried me is that everything about his personality and setup is very, very stock anime medieval hero.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how you felt about Parn.
Man, I was worried early on, and because it's literally everything about what he's doing in that second episode and what he's about or what and his goals and his motivation. It's like, oh, his dad was a traitor, and he's like, don't you dare talk about my father. Oh, I remember when you left and you gave me your sword when I was a kid. Oh no, my village is being attacked. And I was like, oh, this man, after I was on such a high after episode 1, I don't know about this. And he does also the thing where he's pretty headstrong. Like there's a lot of cases where he'll be very rash and quick to action, and rarely works out for him. Granted, he probably shouldn't be yelling when he's charging from far off. Be a little sneaky, buddy. I know you're a warrior and all, but hey,
what's funny is I actually really liked him when I originally saw this, when I was a lot younger.
Yeah,
he's a dude with a sword. He's awesome. But now, like watching it recently, I was like, man, I really don't.
He's kind of a punk.
Yeah, he's kind of an ass. Like, yeah,
good morals, but not smart or anything.
There's that scene where they kick him out the village. They really had a legitimate reason to do that. Like the guy wasn't wrong.
Well, no, they kind of compromised because you could tell the elder was fond of him. He's like, look, we'll send you out as like an emissary, and for whatever reason, Parn decides, okay, I'll burn my house down.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Like you could probably come back to that, but okay.
Emissary to the max.
Yeah. Also, side note, he saves a peasant girl, the mayor's daughter, in episode 2, who was named Liara, and I was having Mass Effect flashbacks. I'm like, no, if Liara probably wouldn't need much help. Oh wait, there's a different one. I also want to touch on we're introduced to most of the supporting characters in the first episode, and there's. Most of them are, locals or people who are familiar with each other. So let's go through the other character I wasn't super big on, who is it Ito? Ito,
yeah.
Who is probably Parn's oldest friend and a cleric. He's very devout to whatever. I don't think it's Christianity, but it's certainly some, widespread religion. And, he's just, all I can really boil it down to is he's the kind of caring, mellow guy. And that's kind of it.
He kind of doesn't really do anything
other than try and comfort them sometimes. Or granted, he can do legit heal spells, so he has a reason battle wise to be around. But just not that interesting as a character. And actually, let's touch on the characters first, then I'll touch on the voices. But I think the rest of the main party, I have better things to say about than we've gotten Parn and Itto out of the way. And yeah, even though Parn's the main character, it's not like he's unlikable or anything. He's just kind of milquetoast. But so okay, let's get to the cool one, Slain.
Slain is awesome. I like Slain a lot.
He's the one who's the straight up mage, not healing magic, but elemental stuff. And one of the he and the another one we'll talk about who is Gim are actually no, I guess Dita is older too, but in terms of their look and mannerisms, he is someone who gives he has a reserved, he is a seasoned, level-headed guy. Almost like a mentor without the actual mentoring, but he's someone to keep Parm and in check and keep a cool head in crazy situations.
I love when he does his spells. Anytime he does a spell, it's
those quiet incantations. He does not, even as dramatic as the spells can look, he rarely gets over dramatic himself. It's a very cool trait.
Yeah.
And we established that he is old friends with Gim, who's a dwarf, not from the area, but he's visited. And Gim is what you would expect from a dwarf. He's rowdy. He loves to drink. He's eager to battle. But as the series establishes later on, he does have a heart and some regrets even. And I found him pretty likable as well. Mm-hmm. Maybe nothing we hadn't seen in terms of dwarf portrayals, but a good job for what there were. And the other two, so I guess we'll save the biggest one for last. But my favorite name of them, Woodchuck. Who is the last to join the group. I think it's in episode 3 or so. And maybe that has to do with the fact that he definitely has probably the poorest moral compass of them because he happens to be the thief of the group.
Yeah. Actually, I like Woodchuck a lot, and I feel like they don't spend a lot of time with him. As far as...
he's also removed from the picture 2/3 through.
Yeah, that's another thing. That always kind of bothered me too, though, because the thing that happens, and they're like, Woodchuck.
Yeah, apparently his fate is never explained after that. We're probably supposed to assume he died, but we don't get a confirmation.
But there's a part where Parn is like, my good friend Woodchuck. And I'm like, yeah, he's a good friend, I guess. But
he is pretty douchey to them at some points. Like when he throws a dagger at Parn, there's like, hey, making sure you're ready. And then he's still trash-talking him like, man, you're so caring. You think you're going to be able to kill on the battlefield? I don't know. But he does have a lot of funny moments. And I just love the fact that, he's someone who's kind of had it rough, you get the sense, because dude being a thief, and they meet him in a jail cell. So there you go. And he doesn't seem to think highly of anyone really, and kind of being very cynical and pessimistic about a lot of things they're going through. Also kind of cowardly and greedy due to being a thief. But he has there are some moments of good, genuine humor in this. I think one of the standout episodes overall is when they're having the ballroom party. There's a scene where he's doing a gambling dice game with a bunch of the off-duty guards. And one of them, I wrote some of these lines down. One of the guards is like, okay, I got to get back to my shift. And his response is, oh, you're a hardworking jailer? I don't think I'll miss you. And then immediately after that, he accidentally reveals that he's rigged the game. And next scene, he's just walking out with lumps like, yeah, they did a number on me.
Yeah, that's right. He was cheating or something.
Yeah. And another side moment of humor, which is when, episode 2, they're in the middle of a bunch of enemy beastmen, and the local soldiers show up, and Prime's like, oh, hey, we're saved. And Deedlit, who we'll get to, is like, oh, you're pretty naive. And then smash cut to them all in a prison cell, and Prime's like, wait, what did we do? And yeah, so let's talk about the last character. Another one that stands out, Deedlit, the white elf.
I think she's everybody's favorite. I think it could be.
Man, I still think Slain might be my favorite, actually. But Deedlit's up there. And I think it helps. She's probably the most prominent character other than Parn, but she's actually pretty cool. She actually starts out, she's the one who nobody knows at first. And I'm guessing they established kind of what her deal was, why she was there later on. But she alerts them to, here's when Parn and Itto goes to attack the goblin, she's the one who tells them, oh, what, the cave's empty? Oh, yeah, they're taking your village. You should probably hurry back.
Yeah, right.
But I also love the fact that, in the second episode when she kind of is tagging along and finally probably meets the group and they're attacked, and Parn does the normal thing, get back, I want to protect you. And she immediately, does some way more badass stuff than he ever could. And she's like, no, you should be worried about yourself.
Yeah, that's the part where there's a dark elf.
No, in episode 2?
Oh, two. Never mind.
Dark elves are the second half of the series. I was barely introduced to them by the time I ended. No, it was just some standard grunts, but she's already a better warrior than him. And granted, and so she's someone who is both, she kind of has a good balance of the playful and fun-loving snide side, but also someone who is smart and level-headed when she needs to be. I think it's a pretty good balance. And even though she's certainly meant to be like, eventually the love interest for Parn, I guess because it's an older anime, there isn't really any fan servicey stuff with her, which I feel like kind of would have been out of place in this kind of series. So she's a pretty well-handled character, I would say. I think I've heard some people argue otherwise. Maybe there's stuff otherwise later on that would make me take that back. But I like her from what I saw.
Yeah, actually, I like Deedlit a lot.
She had another one of my favorite lines in that ball episode where, around the same time as Woodchuck's game, they do the thing of, she and Parn getting formal garb for a dance. And she's clearly flirting with Parn. And he is, because this is when King Cashew, not spelled like the nut, but pronounced like it, who is like an idol of his, is visiting. And he is just gaga over this guy. And Deedlit is clearly like, do you think I look good?
Oh, that's that part where she's like, look at my dress. How do I look in this dress?
And he's just like, God. He's like, I'm not going to say, I know they wouldn't have done it. I would have loved if in the finale, he would have just gone like, Deedlit, it's nice to you, I'm flattered, but I like dicks. Like, I wasn't just staring at Cashew out of admiration. I wanted him inside me. You're better off with like, Slane or something.
It's definitely how he acts for like a better part of the show.
He is kind of oblivious, but again, not the sharpest tool in the drawer to begin with.
Yeah.
But okay, so essentially, let's get into because I know you want to touch on this nostalgia-wise. So you have always mainly watched the dub of this show.
Yeah, I actually originally saw this on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Right, so of course they aired it dubbed.
I don't
think we got this in the recording.
Block.
Talk about how they edited this.
Yeah, so what they did, the Saturday Anime Block, they would show movies.
Yep.
And they would show like Vampire Hunter D and a bunch of other stuff.
One of my favorites, Robot Carnival, they showed.
Yeah.
I'd like to give that its own episode someday. I really recommend the Blu-ray of that, by the way.
So the idea is you wake up to see what the next movie is. And what they did is they took the first 3 episodes of this and just mushed it into a movie. That's with like quotation marks. And like it ends on a giant cliffhanger. And like for the longest time, I was just like, well, I like this movie, but what is that ending? Like, what is that?
That's not complete.
Yeah. So later on, I found out that it was just like the first 3 episodes of a series. Yeah. Which made a lot more sense, but I don't know why they would like trick
maybe
us like
it cost
that.
more to get the rights to all the episodes, and there was other anime they wanted to air instead. I don't know. Early anime distribution was a weird time.
Yeah.
But so this was you had told me up front like man, I have a fondness for this dub, but I don't know if it holds up by today's standards. And I wasn't sure what to expect either because there are 2 voice actors in this who I recognized, but this is also like a late '90s dub from I believe Manga or Central Park Media, and I feel like both they and ADV in particular, they took a while to really get the hang of doing good dubs. The majority of both those companies' stuff from the late '90s is pretty wretched. But I will say, even though I ended up switching to Japanese, this dub was all right. It was
I kind of have a lot of bias for the dub too, just because that's how I saw it.
And that's fine. That's me. If you go back to our Sonic cartoon episode, the Sonic OVA dub, I'll admit that's terrible and the worst Sonic and Tails voices ever, but I can't, I'm attached to it. But no, there is some, it's give or take from character to character. Like, I'll just go through it really quick. Parn, I don't think his acting was bad, but he sounds a little more whiny and not as cool compared to the Japanese voice. Woodchuck kind of cracked me up. He sounds like a Brooklyn gangster with the Brooklyn accent removed. It's interesting.
Sorry, boys. Guess today's just my lucky day. Okay, once more, round and round they go. And after I win all your money, it'll be time to... Huh? Quitting while you're ahead, pal?
No, friend, I should just get back to the dungeon.
Yeah, like your money's gonna be a lot safer down there. Never trusted jailers.
I don't know how I could do an impression of that because I would naturally do the accent. Hey, fellas, let me show you this gambling game. But
yeah, that's exactly how he talks.
It does kind of fit him. It's just weird. But I will, and also, man, I keep forgetting. I need to write down. Gim's voice is pretty good. It's kind of what you would what you would expect, the gruff, over the top thing, but it kind of suits him. The one that I really legit did not like, and it kind of bummed me out because he was one that I recognized. Ito was odd. And granted, he was kind of a bland character to begin with, but it is all of his dialogue does sound so like, oh, Parn, oh, hey, oh, no, oh. It's like Mark Wahlberg in The Happening.
Oh, Parn, Deedlit. He's completely lost any fear of death.
Even like in addition to the voice acting, I think he's also like the weakest character overall.
Yeah. But what bummed me out is he was one of, because I looked up, a lot of these actors didn't do much else anime. Parn did some other stuff, but a lot of them did like one or two other titles, and that might have been all they did for dubbing. But so the two exceptions, so Itto is voiced by a guy named Ted Lewis, who, like I said, this was dubbed by Central Park Media, so they used New York talent, and a lot of those New York actors were also used by 4Kids, the Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Type people. Ted Lewis voiced a lot of characters in Pokemon. He was Tracy. He was a lot of side characters. He was Giovanni. I really liked him as Giovanni.
Oh, wow.
But the really fun one for me, and actually I'll do a little plug for Chris at this point, in the Kirby anime, he was both DDD and Escargoon. Where he just got to let loose. Like, let's just give this snail a Paul Lynde voice just because. Oh, sire.
You know, you're a real couch potato. You're as big as a couch and you're full of potatoes. Yeah!
They're the best part of that show. And actually, real quick plug, so there is, we've talked about reanimated collabs in the past. There's a Kirby one that's pretty far in progress, and Chris finished his shot. If you go to his Twitter, Seaway the Sequel, you can see his shot of DDD watching himself laughing. Hey, look, I made you jump a rope. Oh, it's over.
I saw that. I saw that online. It's really impressive.
Oh, it was great. Chris is working was great. And Escargoon just walks away flipping the king off. I would have loved to got a shot where both of them were talking, and I just want to dub in like, sire, fuck you. I can just do Escargoon impressions all day. Did you ever see the episode where they spoof Psycho?
I didn't. I haven't seen a lot of that show, actually.
It's very kid-oriented, but they're the best part of it. And they recreate the scene where, like, Escargoon is watching... They had a Halloween episode, and so King Dedede opens the thing and bonks with his mouth over and over, and they recreate the violin sting and the shots, and then it's like...
I done mistook you for a ghost! How many ghosts take showers?
But yeah, here in this he's very flat. But no, wait, I want to do my two praises again. Slain, another guy who doesn't really have any other big dub credits. He is awesome in the dub, like straight up better than the Japanese one. Much more distinct, much more of this wiser, older, just very mellow and cool voice. I liked it a lot.
Parn, we've been thinking that you should go back to King Fan ahead of us.
Slain, I can't abandon people who need my help.
Just let us handle things here.
And I would often switch back.
I especially love the scene. I was just talking about this earlier. I love the scene where he's like, point your sword to the heavens.
Oh, it's a Parn, yeah.
Yeah.
Like authoritative he needs to be, but like I said, a very mellow guy. I think the guy they got from Understood.
He was perfect for all the spells and stuff.
Yeah, or even just conversation. Like this is the most dignified of them all, really.
Yeah, I feel like.
And a great
maybe next to Deedlit, he's like
let's talk about
really
Deedlit. She is definitely the most recognizable. Another one of the best performances, and also the most recognizable. You told me about this. It's Lisa Ortiz.
Yeah.
Now, I'm guessing by the kind of stuff you like, you're familiar with Slayers.
Oh yeah.
For anybody who's watched Slayers, it's another also medieval fantasy, but definitely more with a comedic bend to it. And she ended up with that voice, the main character, Lena Inverse, wonderfully. And again, she also did a lot of 4Kids work, a lot of side characters in Pokemon. If you're a Sonic fan, I know we just trashed the 4Kids cast, but she was Amy Rose, and she was one of the better ones, I thought. Like that, I remember when it was announced that they got Sonic X, everybody was like, of course they're going to have her play Amy.
I think she's still Amy, too.
No, she's not. They ditched the 4Kids. The only one they kept was Mike Pollock as Eggman.
Oh, wow.
But she's still doing voice acting and the like. And I remember, I'm going to pull it up real quick. She has a very funny story over how she got into it. Did you ever hear about that?
I think I heard bits and pieces of it.
Okay, hang on. Ortiz admitted that her start in voiceovers came from her brother stealing her car, which led to a series of adventures that led to her to meeting a friend to retrieve the car, who then invited her to a casting call for Wrecker of Lodoss War. So this was her first role.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she did not start out with the intention, but she was naturally good at it.
The world is full of people who'll get you from behind. Let me handle them. You keep your eyes on what's ahead.
For a first role, it's nicely done.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think it. Maybe she'd done some other acting or stuff. I don't know about that, but because that wouldn't shock me. But yeah, good fit for Deedlit in terms of both the funny and the more serious part, because she kind of has this or in her role, in a lot of her roles, this kind of naturally high pitched but can be serious voice. Also, I'm planning to finally try going to Anime USA this October. It has some guests that really interest me, especially particularly Jim Cummings, who we have brought up in the show and rarely comes to the East Coast. But she's going to be there as well.
Ooh, so I wonder if they're going to make her recite the Dragon Slave. Like,
I don't know if she's going to do a panel or a booth or what, because it can vary from guest to guest. I'm sure if she has a booth, someone will have her do that.
I feel like that's all she ever has to, like, people are just like, do the line.
I mean, I'd like to ask her questions about this or working, if she has any just fun behind-the-scenes stories from anything she worked on. I like to try and not ask people questions I think they've heard a million times before. But, so yeah, I would say it's also a mixed bag for the side characters, but I don't know, there was very little that stuck out to me as truly bad other than Eto. So I think it's actually a pretty decent dub considering when it was made, and I'd say give it a shot and try watching it like that first, and if you don't like it, you switch to Japanese, and no big deal. But I guess now we can start getting to some of the overall story. So yeah, like I said, I was a little worried through like episode 2 and 3 because, like I said, all the Parn stuff, I feel like a lot of the stuff in those early episodes, I can't 100% blame the show, but considering how old it is now, a lot of it feels very like stock at this point. I feel like this was probably a very influential series for other storytellers.
Yeah, and I feel like there's definitely the structure of the way they tell the story is definitely strange. Now that I've like rewatched it, where it seems they unnecessarily make it convoluted. Where there was one point in the midway where I was wondering if I missed something, because an episode ends when they're starting to realize the threat of Carla, who is, for all intents and purposes, the true main villain of the first 8 episodes. And so the king goes, all right, go off to this town and tell this other king. And so I was thinking, okay, this is going to be the middle portion, and them journeying. The next episode begins, on their way back from this thing, they report to the king what they had seen. And he just skipped all that shit. And then later in the episode, they do an extended flashback of when they met that guy, and encountered Carla. And I was like, that was, I guess, for dramatic effect, but it was certainly a little confusing. Yeah, they do a lot of jumping around like that. I'd never noticed it before. I think before maybe I just like wasn't paying attention or something, and it's like, well, swords, it's been a while. Yeah, but now I'm like, man, this is kind of hard to follow. For the opening part, I mean, no, I think for the first couple of episodes, it was pretty easy for me to follow, but like I said, they were just throwing I feel like a lot of the early setup stuff is stuff that I've seen done a million times. And honestly, I was really worried that I was going to be like, feel this way about the show as a whole and be telling you like, I don't know about this. But I'd say around episode 4 of the show picks back up, and I was feeling it. So that was a relief. And there's still good moments. Like I talked about, some of the exchanges for the characters, even though the animation is more limited, it still looks good and has some more tense moments. The show as a whole, I feel like even when it's in sequel moments, is still at worst okay to decent. So, and that's more than I can say for a lot of other shows. Let me just go through my notes a little bit here. So one interesting, so I do want to talk about, if we talk about some of the side characters. So the way the conflict starts is, we have a bunch of neighboring kingdoms, not so much unified as much as they don't bother each other. But the first, I'm pulling up the character names again, pardon me. Okay, so one, Emperor Beld, who's the king of this one region, finally starts getting a bit greedy, and he pulls a Fire Nation. Like, let's just go on the offensive out of nowhere and start trying to take over everything. Also, I did do a bunch of mental notes when we were first introduced to Beld and his castle. One, his castle is very Castlevania looking when you see from the exterior. Yeah, it is.
And he even does the thing of emptying his wine glass and throwing it on the floor.
Right.
Symphony of the Night. And beyond that, the other main villain, Carla, so her first introduction is speaking to I think it's in the first or second episode, where she's speaking to that other king, and she has a line dealing with, when we find out about her nature. She says, "What is a body but merely a dress to wear and discard over time?" And I was mentally expecting her to go, "But enough talk, how about you?" That is the one thing our friend Felipe knows about Castlevania, is the intro dialogue, Symphony of the Night. Also, shout out to Simon Belmont. Congrats for being in Smash Brothers, you and Richter.
What is a man?
But a miserable pile of secrets, which is what I would call Carla, actually. And we'll get to her more too, because I can talk about a little more too. She was interesting.
Yeah, how do you feel about her as a villain?
So early on, I was not sure what I was going to think. I will say the way she presents herself is interesting. She has a very I feel like her design and management to stick out. Like, she has this wispy, almost vampiric look to her, which I guess does like an otherworldly feel, which makes sense when you learn what her deal is. And she has a pretty cool voice in both languages. The Japanese one has kind of higher, slightly higher kind of sing-songy approach, and the English one is more straightforward but still fits.
Let us wait. That is why I have come, after all.
But she seems like someone who's perpetually... they definitely established, like, this is the real OP, like, no one can even touch her. Like, when Slane goes against her, he makes it very clear, like, I have never encountered anything like this, and they can't even so much as graze her. She can do force fields and everything. But she does not seem... It's a little weird because you certainly get this sense, because I've seen stories before where like she's helping Beld in terms of doing stuff behind the scene, and he's saying when she's not around, like, yeah, we'll use her until however's necessary. But I'm like, oh, I know how this goes. I think you're being played, buddy, which is exactly what happens. But also one last thing, Beld looks a lot like Ganondorf. Yeah,
his design is, I don't know if I like it or not.
I actually do like it. It's that darker tan and the kind of red mane almost.
Yeah, he has like this liney beard thing.
He's
honestly, definitely a cool character. I like him as a
totally willing to bet that Nintendo took some influence from this show, considering its popularity. Not just for Zelda, but for Fire Emblem. Because there are a lot of Fire Emblem games that start out as, kind of brewing Kingdom Wars, and some of the armor designs reminded me of that too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially like Ashram.
Yeah. Or some of the... Like, even if you go back to the GBA Fire Emblem, like, I feel like some of the villain characters in that have armor very similar to Beld.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, again, like I've said, it kind of makes sense that I felt like I'd seen all these conventions and more recent stuff, because I think this show had a genuine impact. So you can't really hold that much against it. And like I said, even without a side, it genuinely picked up. But yeah, I guess we can talk about... So like I said, I was a little confused. So like, what is Carla's goal? And I was like, is she trying to take over herself? They're touching on this stuff with dragons. Is she... Because that's a Fire Emblem thing too. It's very common that shadowy villains want to resurrect dragons. And
yeah, right.
But no, she... So first they establish that she actually has a connection to Gim. When he first encounters her the first time, because you realize his big intention, his long-term goal, at first I was thinking, is this his daughter? Because he keeps saying, Lelia.
Yeah, Lelia.
No, it's not. I like the fact that it's not that, but it's still something important. Basically, a while ago, he was gravely injured and nursed back to health by a priestess and her daughter, who he connected with and hold a big bond to. So this isn't some romantic or fatherly thing. This is just feeling like it's the right thing to do for when someone he knew helped. Because here's the deal with Carla. She is 500 years old, and she has stayed alive by moving her spirit and possessing person to person. She's, found a way to cheat death.
I think that's really cool, too.
Yeah, it's not the first time I've seen like that again, but it's an interesting take on... Because, we'll get to it. She possesses a guy at one point, too. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that during the final showdown, Gim offers, please let her go and use my body. And she just goes, you think too highly of yourself, and slams him.
She's like, nah, I don't think so.
You stumpy old drunk dude? No way. I'm going to be this, this cool-looking young lady. I mean, why would I want to be a dopey, dumpy, doughy orf? Ugh. I would love if she actually said that. But no, once they get to the finale, because a little ways in, when the war starts, Beld and, I believe, Fawn, the blind guy, the type guy we were talking about, they finally have to duke it out solo, and it goes on for a while, and there's a big, they do the last thing, and I was expecting it to be that they would both kill each other, because they make a clear point of showing, like, the good king goes down, but Beld is, like, seriously got in the shoulder, but he recovers, he wins the duel, but while he's walking off, what we later establish is Carla, she rains a spear down from the sky, just bam!
Yeah, like the shot of the century.
Yeah, it's brutal. There's actually some really brutal violence in this show, considering it was run on TV. Like, when there are massacres, there's plenty of blood. When they show the aftermath, they linger on that, and you get a lot of individually drawn, splayed bodies with
I noticed that a lot of these soldiers kind of suck compared to these monster dudes.
That's most medieval stuff. There was one that really made me go, oh god. I think it's in the third episode where the fort is first attacked. There's a spell cast with one guy that like mummifies him alive. It's like he opened the Ark of the Covenant. I was like, oh whoa, shit got real. And again, when Beld is killed, they do a very detailed, gruesome close up. His face is contorted, and like that spear is just doused in blood. It looked like it hurt. but in the next episode, like they skip forward a bit, but they do finally start to piece. Like I said, that king that they visited, the out of order stuff. That's when he established like he had been, I guess, consorting with Carla to some degree, or she was visiting him, but he was no longer willing to go along to let her do this stuff, and he laid things out. And so he explains, look, she is the real threat. This war, and even like she's very mysterious at first. She's saying like, yeah, this guy's gonna win, this guy's gonna win. It's okay. And it's like, and she would say like, why do you think I actually, it's important to me that Beld wins? No. And so by the time they get to this final fight, and again, this midpoint finale, I almost wonder that like if they built it as a finale in case they didn't get renewed or something. But because the animation gets good in that again because they meet this pair of mercenaries, this one girl, Shiris, and a guy named Orson. I remember that because his name was Orson. Come on, who is a berserker, which is good. I like how they handle that where he's so mellow at first, but once they get him aggravated, he goes berserk, and she has to calm him down, and she's like, "Please don't kill him." So like the animation gets really good for that again, like a lot of fully animated sword fights and like between them and Parm. So for the second half, they finally track down Carla to this creepy temple, and she lays it all out, and basically she's Thanos.
Yeah.
Her original life, she was part of a civilization that gained power, but that was proved to be its undoing, and so she is like, I want to preserve balance in Lodoss. Not by killing half the population, but she's like, so as I keep myself alive, because it's been very clear, her number one thing throughout this thing is manipulation. She'll intimidate, she'll confuse, and she'll pull some strings for some time to like, thrust the plot in this war and conflict in even further. So she's like, look, I'm never really permanently on any country, on any kingdom or person's side. I'll keep so there's these, because the good king, he had the goal of unifying all the countries. And Belg was it Belg? Beld. He was about conquering all of it, and she was like, look, unification or conquering, you get the same outcome, which is that it all becomes one united thing, and I feel like that would eventually lead it to fall apart. If you keep it separate by any means necessary, you're preserving it. So,
right.
Noble intentions, horrible way of doing it, much like Thanos. And that actually, I think that raised my opinion of her quite a bit, because I thought that was kind of a more unique motivation than just throw the world into darkness. Because that's what I was expecting. Like she's like, I want everyone to die. And it's like, no, I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm just being really shitty about it.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite things, because like, so you could kind of agree with her.
Well, it's like Thanos. You can agree with the goal, but not the means of getting there.
Yeah. Not spearing people.
That's actually, I think that's Parn's best moment too, where he points out like what a loss of humility it is. Where he's like, you're kind of just using all these individuals as pawns. You're not valuing their individual lives, and that pisses him off. And for once, I was like, yeah, Parn, yeah. And of course, she immediately sends him flying. So
Parn has his moments.
Yeah, and actually, the outcome, the defeat, I think also probably one of the better emotional moments too, because before the fight starts, Gim tells Slain straight up like, hey, whatever is about to happen through here, don't try and protect me, don't cast your spells, let me do what I gotta do. And he's carving, I guess, a comb type thing, because it was the same thing, the thing he did with Lelia when she was normal. Because like I said, when he first encountered Carla in that like cursed forest, he recognized her, even though it was possessed and messed up. I was like, oh god, I know what's happened now. I got to figure this out. And again, Marvel, he pulls a Steve versus Bucky situation. He might as well be going, you know me. No, I don't. He's repeating the name over and over. And for a while, she is not. He's like, yeah, no, I've suppressed her consciousness. You're stupid. And then his big secret weapon is that comb. And I love the fact that for just a moment, like her eyes widen. There's still a little bit left. She's like, oh wait, and that's enough time for the others to start attacking her. And she's fighting them off, of course. And she's already really weak in Gim. And while she's not looking, he throws his axe, because they point out. So the real soul of her is in that. I think they call it a circlet, but it's basically like a tiara. It's like whoever wears that becomes Carla. And so he knocks that off, and that pretty much saves the day. She's back to being Lelia, but Gim passes, but he seems at peace, and it's a legit good moment, I thought, in terms of his arc is complete. This was his goal. This was his ultimate purpose in the story, and it works. And so I guess we can start. You can start educating more because I've been dominating the conversation. Because there's more to this franchise beyond that arc. So one thing I think we mutually agreed on was kind of not the best way to handle removing Woodchuck from the story.
Yeah, that's kind of one of my least favorite parts. Because also, after the episode that you finished, you kind of get the idea that they're trying to wrap everything up because they only got 13 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of have this whole thing with Ostrom kidnapping Deedlit that is probably my least favorite part of the entire series.
How come?
And it's just it seems I don't know, it just isn't compelling compared to the rest of the series.
Also, Deedlit seems a little too badass to just become a damsel in distress.
Yeah, and it's like the problem I had with Sword Art Online, where like they sort of just make her into the damsel that Parn has to save.
Yeah, Sword Art Online did it in a much more creepy manner, from what I understand.
Yeah, they don't get that creepy with it.
Oh, thank God.
But and there's it's interesting, but
there's still good stuff there. But they do make a mistake with, well, I guess two of my favorite characters. Let me just say what happens to Woodchuck is once things are done, he's still hiding off in the corner, but he sees the circlet emerge. I guess it can kind of move on its own. And you're like, cut to black. The episode ends. Ito notices he's gone. And then it cuts to Woodchuck wandering solo in the desert because he has a much more serious demeanor and he has the circlet. So now he's Carla. But by the time the show ends, she's possessed another woman. And we don't know what happened to Woodchuck.
Right.
But I guess if we're looking at things factually, he had to have been killed for her to abandon his body. But it still would have been nice to get closure.
Yeah, and I don't think they really address that.
Apparently they don't, which sucks.
Yeah, afterwards they sort of are on this thing where they're like, we have to avenge our friend Woodchuck. We're doing this for Woodchuck. And
yeah, so it's like he is dead, but we still don't know what happened.
Yeah, but they're not really clear about it.
Maybe the books tell that and they had to cut it for time. I don't know.
And yeah, I like the series so much. I'm really unsatisfied with the way it ends. But they do kind of make that up in the TV show, though.
Oh, so is there anything you want to say about the remaining OVA episodes, or do you want to move on to other entries?
It's definitely I would say it's definitely worth watching just for completion.
Yeah, because there's still, even without the Woodchuck stuff, it would kind of felt like kind of a quick wrap up. So I'm okay.
Yeah, but I feel like
we didn't touch on because they only introduced the Dark Elves and the Mercs in those last couple of episodes, and I understand they do more later on.
Yeah, there is sort of like a thing with the Dark Elves where Ostrom had his girlfriend Pyrotess.
I'm looking. Hang on. Yes, Pyrotess.
Yeah, so there's this whole thing that kind of segues into those spin-off movies where Ostrom and Ostrom survives, and then him and
wait, who's Ostrom? He's like the right-hand guy of Beld, the long dark-haired one.
The Black Knight dude.
Yeah, he lives.
The Soul Crusher sword.
Mm-hmm.
So they have this whole side thing where it seems like they just sort of set it up so they can make these two movies where they're like, yeah, we survived, let's run away together.
Does he become a main villain later on?
In the movies, he's sort of a side protagonist.
Oh, he switches sides?
Yeah, he kind of... But the thing about those movies is I feel like when they dub them, I've only seen them dubbed, so they might be really good.
Wait, are we talking about Tristania?
Yeah.
Oh, I will say I watched a little bit of those dubs. Those dubs are shit.
Yeah, they're pretty awful.
It was because it was ADV who got the rights to those.
Yeah, and they treat it like it's a different property. I feel like they were trying to sell it like as an independent thing. And
okay, so let's just touch on this briefly.
Sever as many ties to the original source material.
This is what we hinted at this earlier. So there were two. I guess was it one theatrical movie, then another OVA?
I think so.
And Legend of Tristania.
I've never been sure which one came first.
I'm not either. I think the OVA is a sequel, The Chaos Ring.
Right. Okay.
But I know that all I really know about it is because I kind of just skimmed through it. So couldn't really tell you anything about the story or characters. It is the same world, but a different country and cast. So some of the same fundamentals and maybe some side characters, but kind of a separate journey from Parn's group.
Yeah.
Which not a bad idea on paper, but just sounds like the execution was not up to that same level.
Yeah, and I'm really not a fan of how it looks either. The art style is really I don't even know how to describe it. Blocky in a weird way.
It looked more like subpar OVAs from the time. Like for anyone who's ever seen stuff like Garzy's Wing.
Yeah.
Though I would recommend the dub of Garzy's Wing for comedic value. It's incredible. I have these bruises because I had to fight naked. I must somehow make sense of our convoluted situation. Man, maybe I'll do an episode about that someday. But yeah, it did seem to have a different look than, because I think I read Lodoss had a very prominent character designer,
right?
And apparently Christiania didn't, or at least the staff was not up to the task of that.
Well, I know the director. I can't remember what his name is offhand. He's like by today's standard, he's like one of the legendary old school directors, but it was like really early in his career, so it's the art, like it looks.
He's still learning.
Yeah, like it's not horrible, but it's compared to Lodoss Wars, it doesn't look good.
Ryutaro Nakamura.
Yeah.
He directed Serial Experiments Lane. People like that.
Right. Yeah.
He actually died a few years ago.
I did not know that.
He was only 58. That's a shame. Let me see what else he did. Ghost Hound, Kino's Journey, Sakura Wars.
Right.
Those are the ones I'm recognizing, at least. But yeah, no, he did some good stuff. He also worked on Standalone Complex, Lupin the Third. He worked on some good stuff.
Yeah, and maybe I said, maybe the subtitled original Japanese version is a little bit better. Did the
story still seem not as compelling, even separated from the voices?
Yeah, the story, it was just so different. It wasn't even like the same thing.
It gave too different of a vibe.
Yeah, it's almost like a completely different show.
Almost like a completely different world.
Because I don't even think they changed Pyrotessa's name, where she goes by a different name.
Maybe in the sub they kept it.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. Maybe, like, if I could find the original subs, I'll go back and watch it.
Yeah, I'll bet most places that you can watch it or buy it will have the sub. Almost all DVDs do that.
Yeah, I mean, if I can find it, I'm sure it's dirt cheap also.
Yeah, because not highly regarded. So actually, there is one other major version of Lodoss War that you have seen and want to talk about, which is, and give me just seconds. I want to pull up the chronology of this because it was a little spaced out. I think I can't find when the books were written. I know the Gun and Dragon thing was in the 80s. Oh, actually, no, the books did begin in the 80s and continued into 1995. There's some video games too. I'd like to try some of the Super NES. I think they actually did do a Dreamcast. I heard there was a Dreamcast one.
Yeah, supposedly the Dreamcast one is pretty good.
It apparently plays a lot. It borrowed a lot from Diablo.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
It was localized. Apparently, they used a completely different dub cast of British people, though.
Yeah, I haven't actually played it.
The game itself is supposed to be
supposedly it's pretty good though. If you're into that
I remember another prominent fantasy series anime, Berserk, got a Dreamcast game that got localized.
Yeah, that's how I discovered that series. I played the Dreamcast game first before I even knew it was like a
So I'm just pulling this up real quick. So the OVAs, made from June 1990 to November 1991 was when they pretty quick period to publish all of those too. Like I said, it's amazing that the animation never goes off model or anything. I know we talked about like limiting the action scenes, but yeah, Madhouse for you. So in 1998, the studio AIC did, I guess, basically a rebooted version of the story.
Yeah, and it actually
a 27-episode TV series, Record of Lodoss War: Chronicles of the Heroic Knight, which has also been licensed by Funimation. I don't know how if they dubbed it or how that was.
Yeah, the version I saw was the dub.
Did it seem any good?
It was pretty good. I would say it's probably slightly worse than the original, but it's not bad.
Okay,
and I think they got a lot of the original voice actors. I know.
Did they get Lisa Ortiz?
Yeah, she's in there, and Parn sounds weird to me, but I think he's the original voice actor too.
Yeah, well, I think I said Parn, her, and Ito or whatever. Those are the only three that have a decent amount of other anime roles.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me more about, because actually the way you described it to me, it was, so the OVA did the thing where I guess it caught up to where the books were at a point. So the stuff in the episodes that I haven't watched, they made up their own story. Yeah.
So the TV show actually picks up, I think right after the War Heroes, or the War Heroes maybe.
What is the War Heroes the Karla stuff, or is it after?
So the War of Heroes is when the two kings, Beld and the other king,
the Lion King.
Yeah. When they fight in the middle of
Okay.
that big battlefield, and one dude gets speared.
Okay, so they pick it up there, and so I guess they cover a little bit of the same ground as the OVA, but yeah, this was basically a Full Metal Alchemist situation where
Yeah,
the
and they
original
kind of like
adaptation.
they jump way ahead. Also,
Okay, yeah, let me just kind of explain that to people who aren't familiar with either of these. So when the original Full Metal Alchemist anime came out, the manga was not done, and they basically had to make up their own last, like, third and ending, which kind of divided a lot of people. And that show was such a huge phenomenon, it was the rare case of earning enough clout to do basically a remake, but one that was pretty much 100% faithful to the manga because it was done by them. And I guess this was the case too, where the original, it took a while. Like I said, this was like 7 years after the OVA ended, but this show got enough popularity because this apparently was one of the bigger shows in the early anime fandom of the 90s that they went to a different studio, but they were like, yeah, let's do it again and let's properly adapt these novels. And you were telling me, obviously, with it being a TV show, the animation isn't as good. But
yeah, it's actually I think it's good. It just doesn't look as good as the OVA. It's
no, which makes sense. OVAs and movies conventionally look better in Japan than
and it's the style is slightly different. It's not as dramatic as the Cristania movies.
They probably had to streamline it a bit for TV, and maybe they used different designers.
Yeah, I think it still looks really good though, and there's some scenes that are really well animated in it.
So yeah, and how would you say the story fares compared to the OVA?
It's pretty good. I actually like it a lot, and It's like the first. It's back in the day when like we were buying anime on VHSs. This was like the first VHS anime series I was buying with my own money.
Wow!
And they were really expensive. It was like
I have heard. Yeah, it was like $30 for 2 episodes or something.
Yeah,
dumb.
Something crazy like that. I still have them in here somewhere.
Anime fans today
so
are kid anime fans today are spoiled. I know we sound like crockety old men. I remember I wanted to get into Trigun, but I was like 3 episodes for $30. No thanks.
Yeah, I used to go to Suncoast, and I have half the series, actually. I've never seen...
Man, we probably have so many listeners. What's Suncoast? We're old.
Yeah, but it's actually really good, and they spend a lot more time with Shiras and Orson, exploring his whole Berserker backstory.
Oh.
I would say like at least like a quarter of the series, at least from what I've seen, is dedicated to Orson, and sort of like trying to cure him. Because I feel like they kind of rushed that in OVA.
Oh, of the Berserker.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm looking right now.
There's a great fight scene in the beginning too. The first episode, when they come across Orson, there's like a really awesome fight scene with him and Parn.
Nice.
Because one thing they kind of did also different from the OVA is Parn is kind of leveled up in the TV show.
So he's more capable?
Yeah, they like make it a point to like point out that he's like crazy good now, and he has a weird kind of man voice.
Okay, just so you know, because we were talking about the dub cast, I'm checking Anime News Network. So, besides Lisa Ortiz, Parn and Eto kept their actors.
And it sounds like if Parn was like...
it was a couple years later, so maybe that actor, either his voice had changed or he just wanted to do a different approach.
It sounds like Parn doing his impression, like the character Parn doing his impression of what
actually one thing
really
I'm noting, I'm looking at his page
like.
here, this is Bill Timoni. He was the ADR director for the OAV dub, but I'm not seeing him having a behind the scenes role in the show. So maybe somebody directed him differently.
Yeah, it might be what it is.
Yeah.
And I definitely like him better in the show than I do in the OVA. I feel like they make him slightly more
endearing, capable.
Yeah.
That's good. That's probably the biggest issue I have in terms of character, especially since this is his story more than anybody else's.
Yeah, and he's definitely a little bit more of a badass in this.
Nice. Is Slane still a badass though?
Oh yeah, he's always a badass.
Of course, and I'm sure Game would be if he survived. But okay, so what are some other things you want to bring up about the show in terms of story or moments? And spoilers are fine.
So they there's a part in the OVA where they talk about the dragon shooting star.
Yeah, that's pretty quick in the OVA.
Yeah, I think that's almost like an arc in the TV show.
Is it about the tale they told about wanting to sacrifice the princess, or I guess it would be later?
So they go to see King Cashew, and like he's like an obstacle they have to take care of before they can get to their next plot point. So they dedicate a lot of time to actually trying to kill Shooting Star.
Funny name for a dragon.
Yeah.
Isn't that? I know. Give me a second. Yeah, oh, dang, I was so close. I was going to think of that Earth, Wind, and Fire song, but that's Shining Star.
Shining Star. That would have been good.
Shooting star. They should play that whenever the dragon's attacking. And when I saw in the OVA, I get the vibe the dragons in this are kind of treated like in Skyrim, like they are not common.
Yeah, they have a lot of sleeping dragons.
That's what I mean. Isn't that what was going on in Skyrim, where they hadn't been seen for a long time, and the game starts?
Yeah, because they were like asleep, and now they're starting to wake up.
Yeah. Also in Skyrim, one of the dragons is voiced by Mario.
Voiced by who?
Charles Martinet. Mario voices one of the dragons you talk to in Skyrim.
He just appears and he's like, "It's a me."
No, you can't tell it's him. He has a deep voice, and maybe they do some effects on.
The blades are wise not to trust me. Only Khan Niov. I would not trust another Dova.
Okie dokie.
I mean, I met that guy at Awesome Con. He's a legit nice guy. But he also, it's easy to forget, he is a legitimate actor. You can see his like live action demo reels and stuff. He's just most famous for characters that don't say much.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, shout out Charles Martinet.
Another thing I could say is I really like the opening credits of the TV show.
Okay, I'll check it out. I like the opening and closing songs of the OVA.
Mm-hmm.
They're certainly songs of the time, but they're nice, and especially the credit song, very serene. It can be a nice thing to cleanse your palate when you have an episode that ends really heavy.
Yeah. But like I said, there's a part where they time skip in the TV show.
Yeah, you were saying like they skip a couple of years.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any of the time skip stuff because that's actually when I stopped buying the VHSs.
Okay, so you can't give it sales much about this.
Yeah, and I don't think they re-released it on.
Well, like I said,
maybe it's on DVD now. But
yeah. I was gonna say, if anybody listening is interested and willing to shell out some money for this, Funimation rescued the license because Central Park went out of business a while ago, and they have recently re-released a box set containing both Blu-rays of the OVA and a DVD box set of the show.
Yeah, I'd be really interested in rebuying the show. And
yeah, because I watched. I'll admit, I just tracked down some torrent of the OVA, but it was a Blu-ray rip, and it looked nice. Especially given the time period. Like I said, that first episode, I was like, holy shit, man.
Yeah, that first episode is great.
Oh, pure eye candy. And
it's like everything you've wanted to see from like any RPG you ever played.
And also, I mean, if you do like, because I've heard people comment on this, anime from the 80s and 90s, and also the 70s stuff, like pre-digital era that has a unique look to it. In terms of,
it's really
very
scratchy.
plainly.
I feel like the pencil, like it's not pencil, but like it feels
line work,
definitely hand drawn.
Yeah. Well, there's a sketchier look to it because they were doing physical ink and paint. And I did want to say one thing I did think was a cool little artistic choice that isn't that common. When they do a lot of like profile and close up shots of characters, the border lines of their face and heads and stuff are thicker than normal.
I really like that too. That's the thing I wish they still did. They kind of, like, I know they were doing it weirdly in Dragon Ball Super.
I think there's still some shows to do it, but yeah, that's less a thing about technology and more just personal preference that seems to have gone away. Yeah. And I do like the sleekness in modern digital anime. I think my main issue is that 99% of the shows out there look like Sword Art Online.
They kind of have some
there's a very serious problem of
template.
There's a very serious problem of homogenization even in good shows nowadays.
Yeah.
And actually, I guess I could say the same for older stuff too. It's just that I don't see it as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sure there are 100 anime protagonists back then who look like Parn.
Yeah, brown hair protagonist.
yeah. They had much sparklier looking eyes back in the day, I gotta say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we can start drawing things to a close. So we've kind of gone all over the place, but that's okay. I got all my. I guess I could just look over my notes to make sure there's not anything random I would want to bring up. But do you have any other just random notes about any aspect of this franchise you want to touch on?
Well, there is one thing I remembered about the TV show. So the strangest thing about the TV show is that they have these these really short, super deformed versions.
Oh, like comedy skits?
Yeah, comedy skits at the end of every episode that really don't fit into the narrative.
It's a serious show.
It really breaks up the whole seriousness of the situation.
That's a common anime thing, but I feel like they usually don't do it. They usually do it in more lighthearted shows.
Yeah, the skits are amazing. You have to watch the show just for those.
They're amazing when they're more isolated from the show, I guess.
Yeah, I think if you can watch them like by themselves, they'll probably come off better.
Okay.
They're completely different than the TV show. but they're great.
Yeah. I would assume with super
they're
deformed
one of my
comedic
favorite
stuff.
things about that TV show.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So very small notes about. I know my favorite little moment with Carla early on. It's like one of the first times they meet her when she tries to abduct that princess. I love that, like, she's in the middle of, like, having her spells cast and, like, massacring the guards in the carriage, and, like, the princess is looking around outside the window, and Carla, nobody even noticed, she's already just sitting across from her, like, yeah, they can't help you. It's a really cool, effective, because she does the Batman thing, like, where Belle is talking to her, they look away for a second, and then she's just gone.
Yeah, and then she's just gone.
You just expect Belle to go, she does that. And then someone should have done it to her, and she would go, oh, so that's what that feels like.
Yeah, they spend all this time establishing Beld and everybody else as these bad guys, and I was always like, "Who is she?" Like,
yeah,
she seems much more threatening.
And she was. They were total saps. Man, yeah. I wonder if they were like, "Oh, a woman being stronger than us." Har 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 har. It was medieval times, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, yeah. One small thing that I will give Parn credit for. I don't know if I can say this about the dub. He does some killer battle cries from time to time. I was starting to think he reminded, like, I was like, this dub actor, if he's out there today, he could make a good Link. And then I swear he did a full-on shot. And I'm like, yep, there's Link. Sword and shield.
Yeah, I don't know.
Crazy.
The dub actor is more like, sounds like a struggling, I don't know, somebody who like fell off a ladder or something.
Ow. Oh,
yeah.
So he's like Rouge falling to her death.
Yeah, pretty close to that, actually.
So yeah, I think that's a good note to end things on. Link falling off ladders, Rouge the Bat. That's what we all think about when we think of Record of Lodoss War. But I think that'll bring episode 30 to a close. Again, Ben, thanks so much for agreeing to do this and giving us a great topic to tackle. I'll definitely, I don't know if we'll devote an episode to it again, but I'll definitely watch more of it and let you know my thoughts through like Twitter and the like.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate being on.
Yeah, and just again, quick bit of self-promotion. Where on like Twitter and like websites can people find you and your work?
I am at DaikonV on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram at Budafist with 2 D's and a H.
Okay, and spell Daikon V too.
DAICONV.
Okay, and so those are your primary accounts you think people can follow you on?
Yeah, I'm also on YouTube under, I think I am youtube.com/DaikonV.
Okay, yeah, I'll Google it and see where it gets me.
Okay.
Myself, you can find me, I pretty much use the username Behonkiss for everything, BEHONKISS, most active on Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube, I guess, because I still do regular videos there, even smaller, goofier ones, like, I know I told you about the WarioWare Gold Studio dub option. For those who don't know, you can unlock, that's the first game in that series to have fully voice acted cutscenes, which is awesome for a fanboy like me, but you can unlock the ability to use the 3DS microphone and dub over any character in those scenes. And one of the best scenes is the character 18V has a full-on rap battle with this girl. And I was like, I know it has to be done, and I had him and her tag team the Fresh Prince theme song.
That's amazing.
So I'm doing my normal voice for her, and then he cuts to, in West Philadelphia, born and raised on the playground. So look that up on YouTube. Just when I'm not doing.
Yeah, I definitely need to watch that.
Yeah, I'm planning to do a review of. I almost chose that as my topic for this opening instead of Ant-Man, but I want to give it its own video. I don't care if it's a month late. There's some gold, and to my there. I'm such a fanboy for that series, and you know it's the first proper one in a decade. You bet I want to do some stuff with it. And beyond that, you can expect the first part of the new WarioWare Tuned episode. I'm still trying to get it out by the end of August, and if it's not that, then it'll be within the first couple days of September, and that's a promise. I've kept you waiting long enough. And again, if you follow the Grandmother videos, check the new announcement to see where you subscribe to instead for future ones. I'll hopefully have a new one up in the coming weeks. And again, I mentioned at the beginning, episode 31, I can't give it... Oh, I guess I should... There's one more relevant announcement concerning this show, and you don't even know this. I guess it's not that big, but it's just going to be a change in scheduling, which is that when me and Chris first started this show, we were like, yeah, let's do one every week. It became very quickly apparent that is harder, that is easier said than done. So we changed it to bi-weekly, twice a month, and now, you know, we're regularly encountering these bumps in the road that give us like, okay, now it's been a month and a half. I'm not saying we're going to do month and a half, 2 months, but I am probably going to be making this a monthly podcast from the future, outside of possible bonus stuff like the Infinity War spoiler cast. Like, I'm pretty I'm willing to bet that I'll pull Tyler or someone else aside next year, like the weekday Avengers 4 comes out, let's record something. But I hope everybody's okay with that, and I think part of that is also, like, I'm never content to just take the raw audio and upload it. I edit out a lot of pauses, technical issues. I level the audio so nothing's too loud. I add clips from the shows, background music, and, you know, I want to make it the best thing. And considering how many other projects I've been juggling recently, I'm also trying to add another part-time job on top of my full-time one. I'm going to scale back a bit, but I certainly have no intention of ending this show. If you think I'm working my way towards that, hell no. I'm going to do this as long as I possibly can. I love doing this show. I love talking with guys like you, Chris, Patrick, and the like. And I love knowing that people are enjoying it too. So don't worry about that. But stay tuned again to follow the Twitter, follow the Facebook at SketchWatchPlay, Facebook.com/SketchWatchPlay. Any news regarding future topics, announcements, and possible delays, that's where you'll be the first to hear them. And again, since I talked about it, we teased in the past, episode 31 will see the return of Patrick, and we will do our full Ninja Turtles retrospective. Opening topics have not been decided yet, but I definitely look forward to that. It's probably going to be very long and very radical to go along with the Turtles. By the way, Ben, I don't put you on the spot. Do you have a favorite turtle?
Leonardo, all day.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not a common answer.
Double swords, baby.
It's just because of the swords?
What you'll learn is a lot of things I like have to do with swords.
Oh man, Chris Lash makes so much sense now.
Yeah, right.
I'm a Donatello guy for life. And I actually don't know what Patrick's favorite is. But I guess I'll have to ask him about that. I wonder if it's changed. Because I know a lot of kids' favorites are Michelangelo, but when you grow up, you're like, he's an idiot. Let me pick someone else. Even when he's lovable, he's still an idiot. Yeah. Did you ever see the CG TMNT movie?
Yeah, I actually really like that movie.
Yeah, that's the two movies, I'll say right now, the two of them that I think are legit good are that and the first live action movie. And there's a part where, like, Raph screws up and is telling Splinter, I understand why I'm your least favorite. And Splinter's like, you're my most rebellious, but you're not my least favorite. And I want him to say, that would be Mikey. You know it has to be Mikey.
Everybody
Mikey,
knows that.
I love you, my son, but God, you're stupid. All right, that'll bring things to a close. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being patient during our break, and look forward to Turtle Talk, and more down the line. Thanks again to Ben for joining. Give him a follow if you like what he's talked about. But I'm John Fleury.
I'm Ben Reynolds.
And what is a body but merely a dress to wear and discard over time? But enough talk. How about you?